week. You talked about cybersecurity being on the list, and we'll talk about that later today. What else is out there?
Well, in the Senate, the cybersecurity legislation is on the floor. There's a Democratic bill, or I wouldn't say Democratic bill, but it's a bill sponsored by Senator Joe Lieberman, independent of Connecticut, called the Cybersecurity Act, and there's a Republican rival bill sponsored by John McCain and Kay Bailey Hutchison, the Secure IT Act. We're going to see some amendments to the bill. Senator Patrick
From this morning's Washington Journal, the U.S. House about to gavel in 19 bills on the agenda today, legislative work at 3:30 Eastern.
Private information.
Let us pray. Dear God, we give you thanks for giving us another day. As the members of this People's House return, grant them the generosity to serve you as you deserve, to give of their industry and not count the cost, to fight for their convictions and not heed the political wounds, to toil and not seek for rest, to labor and not ask for reward except for knowing that in being their best selves they do your will. And, dear God, on this day we ask your blessing upon the family of Tim Haroon. Grant them peace and consolation as they mourn the loss of his mother. May all that is done be for your greater honor and glory. Amen.
Chair has examined the journal of the proceedings of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House's approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the gentlewoman from North Carolina, Mrs. Fox.
Please join me in a pledge to our wonderful flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair will entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. What purpose does the gentlewoman from North Carolina seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to suspend the rules and address the House for 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The President's policies have failed and are making the economy worse. Since President Obama took office, we've seen a 52% increase in completed regulations deemed, quote, economically significant, end quote, which means they cost the economy at least $100 million a year. We can't create a fair system for job creators when the government keeps changing the rules. We can't help the job seeker by punishing the job creator with more government red tape. How can someone who believes that small business owners didn't even build their own businesses understand the effects of red tape? He can't. That is why House Republicans passed the Red Tape Reduction in Small Business Job Creation Act, a combination of pro-growth bills aimed at cutting red tape to make it easier for small businesses to create more jobs. In order to grow more jobs for the American people, Mr. Speaker, we need to shrink the amount of red tape coming from Washington. I yield back.
What purpose does the gentleman from Connecticut seek recognition? Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, in exactly 5 months' time, the tax rates for every tax filer in this country will go up, an event, the so-called fiscal cliff, which most mainstream economists believe would push our country back into a double-dip recession. There is hope, however. Last week, the U.S. Senate passed a measure which protects the income of every tax filer up to $250,000 and allows rates for income above that point to return to the Clinton-era rates. This is a plan which will protect 98% of tax filers in this country from any tax increase, will help balance the budget, and will give confidence to the financial markets who are terrified of the inability of this town to get its business done. We should act on the Senate's plan. In the House, the Republican leadership have a choice. Let's compromise, let's get something done, let's help the economy, or let's push this country into brinksmanship, which for the last year and a half has been the trademark of the 112th Congress. We can do better as a House of Representatives. Let's pass the Senate measure. Let's provide some confidence for the American people and for the U.S. economy to grow. And I yield back the balance of my time.
What purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, in a recent opinion piece submitted to Politico, Jeffrey Zietz, the acting director for the Office of Management and Budget, wrote, quote, "As President Barack Obama has said many times, the sequester wasn't meant to be implemented. It was designed to cause cuts so deep that just threatening them would force Congress to meet and agree on big, balanced package of deficit reduction," end of quote. If the President actually believed the Budget Control Act would destroy jobs and threaten our national security, why did he sign the legislation into law? Additionally, if he believed the proposed cuts would frighten members of Congress, why has he remained silent on this issue? House Republicans have acted and passed bipartisan legislation several times replacing the sequester with responsible reforms, as well as calling for more government transparency to stop the destruction of 200,000 jobs in Virginia alone. I urge the President to support this bill to promote peace through strength. In conclusion, God bless our troops, and we will never forget September 11th and the global war on terrorism.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from California seek recognition? Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize and celebrate the achievement of Viet Bao Daily News. They are celebrating their 20th anniversary in the Vietnamese American community. For 20 years, Viet Bao Daily News has served its readers with comprehensive news, current affairs, and information from the broader community and from Vietnam. Viet Bao Daily News is also a venue for Vietnamese people to preserve the Vietnamese language and cultural values through the Writing on America Awards initiative. This is a writing competition that they hold every year that allows the Vietnamese American community to write short stories about their experiences, whether they're experiences coming over from Vietnam or experiences here. And they judge it, they have winners, and then they make a compilation of these written stories, and it's for the archives, it's for the future, it's for their community to understand where they come from, and it's also for the broader American community to understand. So I would like to congratulate all of the winners and the participants of the 2012 Writing on America and Teen Writing Awards for submitting so many incredible stories, some of which I have had the opportunity to read. Again, congratulations to your staff and the dedication towards the community on the 20th anniversary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Chair will receive a message.
Mr. Speaker, a message from the President of the United States.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Secretary.
I am directed by the President of the United States to deliver to the House of Representatives a message in writing.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Consent to rise, address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, as a physician and now as a legislator, I frankly do not understand the way our government continues to treat those who care for America's patients. Earlier this month, I introduced legislation, H.R. 6142, to provide a one-year extension for Medicare physician payment rates. This allows patients to continue to have access to their physicians in the next year. Look, this is no mystery. We all know the last patch is going to expire December 31st. We all know that before December 31st of this year, somehow we'll cobble together and provide another patch. Why not do that now? Why make them wait until the deadline? They can't plan. They can't grow their practice. They can't expand because they don't know what their government is going to do to them. And further compounding the problem this year is the specter of sequestration that occurs on January 1st. No matter how you slice it, it's another 2% cut on top of the 27 to 29% cut they're already going to get under the SGR. Let's do the right thing. We could pass this bill under suspension this afternoon. We could provide our nation's physicians the stability and the certainty that they need to continue to see the patients we've asked them to serve. Now I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Northern Mariana Islands seek recognition? Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, here's a story to make us all cheer.
46 high school musicians from America's smallest insular area raised $250,000 to go to London and perform during the Olympics, where they win a silver medal. This is the story of the Saipan Southern High School Manta Ray Concert Band, who played their hearts out at the London Celebration Music Festival this week in Central Hall, Westminster. We are all cheering in the Northern Mariana Islands because the Manta Rays represents us all. We're the only U.S. insular area that did not send athletes to London. We sent our student musicians, and they came away with silver. It took bake sales, ramen sales, garage sales, a bowling tournament, tree plantings, car washes, a radio telethon, lunches, and raffles. It took businesses, governments, civic organizations, and individual donors all chipping in. Because these kids dared us to dream. 10 years ago, there was no high school band in our islands. Most families could not afford to buy an instrument. Today, through the faith, effort, and determination of these students, we're all inspired, confirming the belief that there is no better investment than in our children. Congratulations, Manta Ray. And I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you, Mr. Dreyer.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
House for 1 minute, revise and extend my
Without
remarks.
objection.
Mr. Speaker, August 22nd is a very important date. The reason I say that is that August 22nd is the date that Russia will become a member of the World Trade Organization. It's a done deal. Both houses of the Russian Parliament have passed it, and it's been agreed to. And I point to this date because there are many who believe that as we look at a vote on permanent normal trade relations with Russia that will be on the horizon, we're not going to be able to do it this week. I hope we will do it shortly after we come back in September. There's some who believe that we are playing a role in getting Russia into the World Trade Organization. That is not the case. That's not the case. All we're saying, Mr. Speaker, is that since Russia is already going to be a member, will be as of August 22nd of the World Trade Organization, we want to make sure that U.S. workers and U.S. businesses will have the opportunity to have access to the 140 million consumers in Russia. So, Mr. Speaker, it's important for us to note the question is not whether or not Russia will be a member of the WTO, because I believe that our access will play a role in undermining the policies of Vladimir Putin. The question is, are we going to get our Western values into Russia? We need to say yes.
Chair lays for the House Communications.
The Honorable the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir. On July 26, 2012, pursuant to Section 3307 of Title 40 United States Code, the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure met in open session to consider resolutions to authorize 12 lease prospectus, including the General Services Administration's GSA FY 2011 and FY 2012 Capital Investment and Leasing Programs, CILP, and one resolution to authorize the exercise of a purchase option on currently leased space for $14 million below fair market value. Our committee continues to work to cut waste and the cost of federal property and leases. The resolutions approved by the committee will save the taxpayer $10.3 million annually, or $178 million over the terms of the leases. These resolutions ensure savings through lower rents, shrinking the space requirements of agencies, avoiding holdover penalties, and efficiencies created through consolidation. In addition, the committee has included space utilization requirements in each of the resolutions to ensure agencies are held to appropriate utilization rates. I have enclosed copies of the resolutions adopted by the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure on July 26, 2012. Signed sincerely, John L. Mica, Chairman.
Referred to the Committee on Appropriations. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the Chair declares the House in recess until approximately 3:30 p.m. today.
And when the House comes back at 3:30, they'll begin consideration of 19 bills, including preventing abuse of government credit cards and further limits on abortions in the District of Columbia. Live House coverage here on C-SPAN.